Sonic Superstars has finally released, and as of writing this script, I've only been playing it for a couple days. However, I pretty much finished the game already and even spent time doing a couple more playthroughs, so I feel like I have enough experience to get an opinion out there. Also, because this is a first impressions video, I won't be going to extreme detail on every little thing, as well as not having hardly any crazy editing. I just want to get this video out there and post my initial thoughts, especially before Mario Wonder comes out and takes up all of my time instead. Before getting into the game itself, I thought I'd briefly give you all my expectations on the game before it came out. So, pretty much since the first trailer, the game didn't get me all that excited. I didn't really care for the 2.5D art style, and the music reminded me of Sonic 4's, which is, not great. It just wasn't giving me the same optimistic vibe as I had when Mania first got announced back in 2016. Especially when I heard that the Mania team wasn't returning for this game, it made me pretty worried and have lower expectations. Not that I thought the game was going to be bad or anything, it still looked like it was going to be pretty good, but just nothing amazing to me. So was I right? Did the game come out the way I thought it would, or was it better than I expected, or even worse? Well, let's find out. Okay, before I actually talk about the game, I just want to give a spoiler warning because I will be talking about the final boss and other secrets in the game, since I do want to talk about them a bit. So if you want to play it yourself first without getting spoiled, then obviously don't watch this video, or at least watch after you've already beat the game yourself. Also, I just want to bring up that I will be comparing this game to Mania a little bit here and there throughout this video. Mania was the last 2D Sonic game, so I feel it's fair to compare them and put Superstars up to the same standards. I will say though, Mania is my favorite 2D platformer of all time, so I am obviously biased towards it a little bit. So I do apologize if my love for Mania seems a bit much or annoying, I just love the game that much. With that said, let's finally talk about the game. To start, I want to get right into the core gameplay first, and from what I've played of it so far, I think Superstars plays super well. The momentum-based physics we've all come to love works pretty much the same as the classic games, which is great. There might be more minor changes to the controls, but I honestly couldn't tell from playing, so I don't personally mind if there is any at all. Now, when it comes to the level design, I'd say it's pretty good for the most part. Most levels are pretty fast-paced if you know what you're doing, and still have some unique gimmicks to make each one stand out. Stuff like the vines you use as grind rails in Speed Jungle, the big snakes you run on top of in Sand Sanctuary, and many others. All of these are pretty unique and give visual variety, while also not killing the flow of gameplay too much. And even if some of these gimmicks or certain sections slow the pace down a bit, there's usually multiple ways to skip them to keep your flow going, which I'll go into more in a bit. There are some exceptions, like the last zone in the game with this weird anti-gravity section where you're dodging lasers while being extremely slow, but those types of gimmicks don't appear too often in Superstars, so it isn't too big of a deal. Overall, the level design is good, but I don't think it quite reaches the peaks of level design that Sonic Mania achieves. Even with Mania reusing old stages, I just think the speed and flow of them are the very best of any 2D Sonic game, so it'd be hard for Superstars to top that anyways. Regardless though, it is still very good and enjoyable. Moving on to the playable characters, they all feel pretty in line with how they should play with a few exceptions. Sonic plays very similar, being the fastest character in the game and utilizing the drop dash. Unfortunately, there is no elemental shields this time around, so Sonic can't utilize them for platforming. As for Tails, he actually feels super good in this game, specifically because of one new feature that makes him more fun to play than ever. He now can more quickly descend while flying, which makes Tails feel a lot more faster paced to play. It is a bit annoying having to wait for Tails to descend slowly in the other 2D Sonic games, so I love this new change personally. Knuckles pretty much plays the same as he does in the other classic games, being able to glide and climb, which both feel about the same as before. Now Amy definitely feels the most different of the four, since her running hammer attack from Origins can't turn around quickly anymore while going fast, which is disappointing since I found it to be a neat movement option in that game, and now it just feels kinda useless. Though her spinning hammer attack feels pretty much the same, or maybe even better I think? It at least felt more consistent at killing spiked enemies, but I also could be wrong, so... She did get a newly added double jump though, which wasn't in Origins. This alone made Amy feel a tad more unique and more useful for platforming this time around, so I do appreciate that. However, Amy and Knuckles actually end up being outclassed by a new character you unlock after finishing the main story. It's a new character introduced in the game, Trip the Sungazer. She pretty much works as a combo of Knuckles and Amy, being able to double jump and also climb on walls and even ceilings too. This pretty much makes Knuckles and Amy obsolete, which I don't know how I feel about that. I do wish Trip had more of her own unique abilities, but I can't lie, she is very fun to play, so I won't complain too much. Also, her super form is very weird. She basically turns into a freaking dragon for some bizarre reason, which caught me completely off guard when I first saw it, but it is very funny, so I'm not complaining. In her super form, she can breathe fire and fly over everything, which felt a bit overpowered to me, though she also controls much worse and weirder on the ground, being unable to use momentum anymore for platforming. Overall, the super form is useful, but also weird to use at the same time, but despite that, I still think Trip is a pretty fun character all around. And I guess since we're already talking about Trip, how is she in terms of her character and personality? Well, she's at least portrayed as a very shy, clumsy, and also a nervous wreck. She usually messes up any of Fang's plans, which ends up making her panic and making Fang upset. We really don't get to see her personality much past a few of these cutscenes, unfortunately, but from what I have gotten to see of her so far, I like her pretty well. Her more shy and clumsy type of personality is cute, and also pretty freaking relatable, at least with me. I also think her design is pretty decent as well, especially with the helmet she usually has on. Combined with the spikes she has on her body that she uses to climb stuff, I think she ends up being a pretty neat character. I do think Sage ended up being more of an interesting character though, due to her having way more screen time in Frontiers, but I do still like Trip a good bit though. Also, I would absolutely love to see her get a plushie in the near future, that would simply be awesome. Similar to the classic Sonic games, there are special stages you can collect Chaos Emeralds in by completing them. Unfortunately, I really did not find these all that fun. You pretty much grab these sphere things and zip yourself around with them. It can feel hard to gain lots of speed, and it still never felt clear to me what the best timing was to be the fastest possible. They're thankfully not that hard to beat besides for one exception, so I never had to spend too much time on them. Plus, the new abilities you get with each Chaos Emerald makes it all the more worth it. Okay, well, maybe not every Chaos Emerald power is that useful, but there are a few that are really good. As for how they work, they basically function like Wisps in Sonic Colors, but instead of being required power-ups to use to solve puzzles and progress through the levels, they are just additional moves you can only use sparingly. Personally speaking, I much prefer this since I can experiment with them more as platforming and speedrunning tools, which I enjoy a lot. It pretty much works more like how the Wisps function in Sonic Colors DS. It's more so extra powers that keep the flow of the stage going versus slowing it down like in the Wii version of Sonic Colors. You can also just never use these powers at all if you don't want to, they're never mandatory, which can be viewed as good and bad. Because it isn't mandatory to use any of them, I found myself not using a good chunk of them since there are hardly any sections where they'd be useful at all. A good example of an emerald power I never used was Vision, where you can create some platforms for you to use. There were hardly any areas with these type of platforms at all though, so I never got to utilize them. There's a time power up too, where it slows down everything around you, which could be used for niche situations I suppose, but overall I never found any use for this myself. I don't have much opinion on the extra power-up since I rarely got to use it either, but I think it gives each character an additional move, but I never found myself using it much so I don't have much to say about it. As for the useful ones, they pretty much have similar strengths in that almost all of them help with vertical platforming. The Ivy, Water, and especially Bullet power-up all let you go up vertically with ease. The Water one is very useful for swimming in general, but the Bullet power is straight up the best, because it functionally works the same as water, being able to go in any direction constantly, but now it can be done anywhere, including underwater as well for some reason. It's extremely overpowered, but since I can only use it sparingly, I have to pick and choose what sections I want to use it for, which can be fun for speedrunning stages in my opinion. Also helps with skipping slow sections and levels that I really don't feel like playing. You also get these powers early in the game, which is nice. I especially found these the most useful on Sonic since it pretty much gives him the ability to easily platform vertically while still having the drop dash for going fast, making him probably the most fun character in the game for me. The only other power left is the Avatar power-up, which is the first one you get in the game. It's pretty much a screen wipe that lasts a few seconds, which isn't super useful in the stages. However, it is much more useful for the bosses, which I'm about to get into them right now. Oh boy, the boss fights in this game. Easily Superstar's biggest problem for many people, at least from what I've seen online so far. As for me, I would have to say it's definitely one of my biggest issues with the game as well. Now, Sonic games don't tend to have the best boss fights, especially when it comes to 2D Sonic games. Here's the thing though, at least with most bosses in the classic Sonic games, they don't tend to last very long. You can usually cheese them easily by getting a bunch of hits on them in a matter of seconds. I personally never minded this since it kept the game at a good pace this way, never having any boss overstay its welcome. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work like this in Superstars. Many of these boss fights have a long period of time where they're unable to be hurt after getting hit once, making you have to wait before getting another hit in. This alone makes the boss fights last a bit longer than in other classic Sonic games, but it gets real bad when they're flat out unreachable or have only specific points where their weak spots show up. It's pretty much a waiting game for some of these bosses, especially if you're Sonic and lack any easy way to hit the bosses high up in the air. Thankfully, with the new Emerald powers, including the Avatar one I mentioned before, this becomes less of a problem, since now you can use a bunch of them at once to cheese most bosses without much issue. Now, this doesn't fully resolve the bosses being slow to beat though, since the invincibility frames after getting hit still lasts a long while, but using these Emerald powers at least helps a bit with reaching the boss's weak points much easier. Though this does not apply to every boss, there is still a few where no matter what you do, it will always take an eternity to beat. The absolute worst offender of them all to me is easily the final boss. It takes so long to beat, and dying in this fight, even in its second phase, will kick you back to the first phase of the fight. And all you could do is wait for the really long attacks to end before you can get an opportunity to hit him. Also add to the fact that there is unskippable cutscenes in the middle of the fight. It is just agonizing to get through. I guess the last thing I want to bring up about this game is the overall presentation and soundtrack. When it came to its music, I feel pretty mixed on it. It's hard to give a full opinion since the game just came out, but some of these songs still sound like they were from Sonic 4, which I'm not a fan of. There are some really good songs here and there though, but nothing truly spectacular besides for a few exceptions. It doesn't really get me all amped up and spark the same joy many other Sonic soundtracks do for me. Visually, I think this game actually looks quite nice. I do prefer 2D sprites or art when it comes to 2D platformers usually, but I do think the character animations and level environments look quite nice and polished. Nothing super interesting or amazing, but still nice enough I suppose. It is at least better than Sonic 4's art style, that's for sure. I'm still not fully into the classic Sonic crew having super cutesy designs, but that's really a matter of preference. They still do look good with the art direction they were going for, I suppose. I know I haven't brought up the story at all yet, but that's just cause I don't have hardly anything to say about it outside of Trip's character. Just a very simple and typical plot for a platformer to be honest. Overall, I did enjoy Superstars quite a lot despite some of its issues, since I still believe the core gameplay and level design is really solid and fun. However, I still can't fully defend this game and I'm overall still a bit disappointed with it. Mainly due to the fact that the game costs $60, which I want to be real with you, I don't think the game is worth that price. It doesn't provide enough content, nor does it do anything absolutely mind-blowing that would make you want to buy it for that much money. Combine that with the shady stuff they did with the PC port, trying to force you to sign up for Epic Games account, which thankfully you don't have to, and other issues I was personally having, like controllers not working and the options menu specifically soft-locking the game for some stupid reason, making me have to restart it. It all just makes the game not fully sit right with me. I know this might annoy some, but in my genuine and honest opinion, I think you'd be better off buying Mania instead. It's around $30 to $40 cheaper and is much more well designed of a game to me. Mania also blew my mind more with the level design and all the little details in the level themes, music, and secrets when I first played it. Superstars just never blew me away and got me super hyped the same way Mania did. The game did feel a tad bland because of that, but it's definitely not nearly as bad with that as Sonic 4 at least. Hey, this is me recording a bit after the editing process. I've been playing a little bit more Superstars since I wrote the script, and I just wanted to say I've been enjoying the game even more than I have before. I think I may have been a bit too harsh on some stuff, especially the soundtrack. It's generally great, and I've enjoyed listening to most of the tracks so far. Even if there are a few that aren't super great, most of them are actually really good. Most of my points I did bring up still stand though, which is why I'm still going through with this video at all. Especially because I don't feel like remaking my script and editing everything all over again, only to slightly change my tone on the game. I also still have my issues with the game anyways, mainly with the price tag and slow boss fights. If this game was at least around $30, I would for sure recommend this game to people. It's a very good game. I'd even go as far as to say it could potentially be in my top 5 2D Sonic games, which is no easy feat. I can't say if it is for sure, but I do think it's definitely close. Sorry if this felt random, I just felt like it was important to mention that my opinion on the game has gone more positive. It just wouldn't have sat right with me uploading this video without addressing my feelings on it currently. However, I've been thinking about it more again, and I'm realizing I might be being a bit too nice here. Especially after playing some Mario Wonder, I do wish Superstars truly reached its full potential and innovated the same way Mario Wonder has for 2D Mario. Don't get me wrong, I do really like Superstars, but I just can't fully defend it either, since I still believe the game could have been better and more amazing. Gosh, I'm so indecisive, dude. The best TLDR I could give you for now is that Superstars is surprisingly great, but still not absolutely amazing, or at least not the best it could possibly be. I love the game, but I also want the quality to be the same tier as a game like Mario Wonder, instead of settling for less. I both love this game, but I'm also not a complete defender of it either pretty much, if that makes any sense. Sorry if I ended up repeating points again, I am just kinda mixed on my feelings towards it despite me enjoying it. That's pretty much all I've got to say on Superstars for now. Not sure if I'll end up making another video on this game or not, there might be more I have to say on it in the future, but for now, I'm perfectly content with what I've said here. I do have plans to make more detailed essay videos on Sonic and other game franchises I love in the near future though. I mean heck, I'm already working on another Sonic video, which will be talking about a particular character and their history being playable in Sonic games, so if that interests you, I'd appreciate if you subscribed if you wanted to. Otherwise, I hope my thoughts on Superstars was interesting, and if you have any thoughts on the game yourself, you could comment down below with what you think. Also, apologies if there was any issues with the audio or the way I talked. I got a new microphone recently and I'm still not truly comfortable doing voiceovers yet, so I likely did stutter a bit here and there. Hopefully it didn't ruin the quality of the video too much though. I think that's pretty much all I have to say for now. Thank you all so much for watching, hope to see you around for future videos, and yeah, guess I'll see you guys later, maybe.